Fantastic.
Hello. It is March 31st at 7:01 p.m. EST, and you are watching the Dovecote episode 64 with Jayden McKayla Jones. Jayden,
Hello.
say hi and please introduce yourself to my audience with their waiting, hungry mouths.
Hello, hello. So I'm Jayden. I am a game designer, writer, bartender living in the DMV area. I work for a really fun board game RPG card shop that is also a bar called No Land Beyond. And I feel very lucky to be able to work in an industry that is my biggest hobby, both for like bartending and RPGs. And let's see, a couple other things about me. I have in the past worked on a couple games. I've written a little.
Oh, I appear to have lost you. I hope this is not my internet. I hope this. I mean, I really hope it's not either of our internets, but. Uh-oh. Warp warp. Anyways, while we try and get her back, how's everybody doing in chat? Apologies for the technical. This will happen. Yo. Okay. It appears that her PC is frozen, so once it is unfrozen, we'll, you know. Ooh, got a 3-day mod booster. Hell yeah. I have also been playing a lot of Warframe. I got a couple of Tennessite codas done, and that was very fun. I got the funny ephemera where your Warframe has like a saw blade sticking out their shoulder, which I like quite a bit. And what else have I been doing? And I've just been doing the seasonals, the seasonal 1999 stuff. It's fun. Having a good time. Yeah, they're very fun. Well, I guess while we wait for Jayden, this is the Warframe corner. I really do think they need to go back and readdress the liches and sisters, because they're so much harder to set up and defeat than. Yeah, welcome to the Dovecote. Hi, Jayden. Welcome back.
I'm very sorry about that. My computer froze up on me.
It's okay. I wound up talking about Warframe with one of my chat members. So,
Fantastic.
So you froze pretty much at the exact moment that you're about to say what games you'd worked on.
Yeah. So I have in the past worked on 2 indie RPGs, Voidheart Symphony and Hardwired Island.
Mm-hmm.
They're both indie tabletop RPGs. Hardwired Island is a retro cyberpunk or retro future cyberpunk setting on the spaceship, not spaceship, space station of the same name, Hardwired Island, if I remember correctly. And Voidheart Symphony is a Persona-inspired RPG, published by Rowan Rock and Deckard, like you posted on the chat, and is
Yeah.
currently getting a revised edition on BackerKit, if I remember correctly. So,
Oh,
yeah,
hell yeah. Like that.
yeah, mostly just little like text blocks and lore, heavily inspired and heavily based on my lived experience from growing up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and being raised Mormon.
Hell yeah.
Um, yeah, so with Voidheart Symphony, I created the um, like one of the potential antagonists of the false prophet, which was very heavily inspired by, you know, the Mormon Church constantly seeking out like queer scapegoats. And then in Hardwired Island, I created the stat block, not stat, the little like lore block of the True Cross Clinic, which is heavily inspired by all the MLM, like health industries
Mm.
out there in Utah.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much everything that I've had published in this industry. But I've been wanting to work on more, and have been making had a lot of ideas and a lot of like unfinished projects, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Um,
What sort of stuff have you kind of noodled with? I'm curious.
yeah, so I was right now the big thing I'm working on is a game that I call that is in the current iteration called Made in My Own Image, where it was supposed to be my submission for the hashtag TittyRPG Game Jam on
Mm-hmm.
Twitch, but life circumstances ended up making it so that I wasn't able to release a playable version yet. Um, but it is close. I've got the main mechanics. The general idea of Made in My Own Image is that it is heavily inspired by things like um, The Matrix, um, the Dragon HRT comics that are by Avi/Sabine. I'm assuming you have seen those on like Twitter or
I
Tumblr
think
or Blue Sky.
probably.
Yeah, they blew up for a little bit, a little while back. That led to a whole bunch of trans comic creators basically making their own animal HRT stories.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. I
Yep,
remember
yep,
this.
yep, 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 yep.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So Dragon HRT recently wrapped up and was a big inspiration for this game, and then also with like a little hint of Dread Delusion in there.
Oh,
So
hell yeah.
it's a fantasy setting where a evil god has killed all other gods and assumed all power of creation to themselves and forced humanity to into a system and society that exclusively worships them and what they prescribe as good creation, and you are playing as the very queer individuals who have rejected that society and are fighting against it and stealing the divine power of creation for yourself to
Hmm.
reach to not only like create new things and new ideas but also reshape your own body and identity into your own image. So it is literally, so when written out, or the vision in my head for the cover art is that it would be made in my own image, except
Hmm.
my is crossed out and replaced. Sorry, made in his own image,
Hmm.
and but his is crossed out and replaced with my. You know, the radical taking of creation, autonomy, and self identity to choose for yourself what you are, not just a creation in the image of God.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
great. That sounds really fun. I hope to see that. That sounds awesome.
thank you. Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
it's almost a little drawn to life as well. I feel like,
Mm,
although it's been years since I played that game. Um, yeah, that fucks. What was I?
nice. Yeah.
There's something I was thinking of. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, right. Yeah. So like, I'm curious because like
Mhm.
uh, I have to be honest. Like, I'm not terribly familiar with your work in Void Heart Symphony and Hardwired Island. I know you
Mhm.
because we met at PAX U.
Yeah. Yeah. No worries. No
Yeah.
worries.
Uh, but I'm kind of interested in kind of a through line of like depicting in very like lush and kind of lush and furious detail like
Mhm.
theological organizations for one to, or not necessarily theological organizations and cult like organizations for one to attack and destroy. Is that an accurate estimation of like the sort of work that or like themes that you're interested in?
Like, I don't want to say yes. I want to do more than just be the ex-Mormon creator that only talks about the Mormon church and only critiques the Mormon church, but very it is like a theme that does keep coming up in my work and my ideas. Like the like Made in My Own Image is also very much a game about the like I'm no longer like really in the Mormon church at all or like influenced by them because I have physically left Utah.
Yeah,
Um but the general upbringing around that and also the general status of Christianity as the default and especially the current rise and of evangelical Christianity and the power they have in shaping society is a big influence there with Made in My Own Image. A direct rejection and attack on that specific hierarchy and um, oppressive power base.
hell yeah. That's really cool. Um, it's definitely visible even from like the top down perspective. So
Mhm.
it's I think like I both understand like that you don't necessarily want to be the ex Mormon teacher RPG designer who makes
Yeah,
ex
yeah,
Mormon games, but also
yeah, yeah.
I do think there's a lot of value in, and I'm sure you understand this. Like I think there's a lot of
No,
value
what? Yeah. Mhm.
in making stuff having consistent like things that show up in your work. I think it's cool.
No, yeah, 100%. Like other things that I want to play around with are like trans identity.
Hmm.
Like the other day I had a thought of like I need to at least look at if I were a Lich Man first, but an idea of something similar to if I were a Lich Man, but focused on like the trans experience
Hmm.
represented by vampires. Very much like, being seen as a monster, but also having like some amount of power to like bring like let others be themselves and realize their true self. So like in this case, the embrace would actually be more akin to cracking an egg, so to speak. Um
That's really fun.
and yeah. And but also of course like being seen as monsters and blight on society. Um I I've been reading Gideon the Ninth and
Hmm.
been wanting to play around with like a witch RPG where you're basically black mages rejected from society, all engaging in magic that is looked down upon, like hemomancy or necromancy, and just for a very silly idea, I've been playing a lot of Helldivers, and the new Monster Hunter
Mhm.
game came out, and I was like, what if I combined the two? Like, what if you were these
Oh.
like what if this was a sci-fi like yeah, sci-fi mil sim, sci-fi or military sci-fi, but also you were going out around the galaxy hunting like giant monsters. And like I realize the colonial implications there, but also sometimes you just want to kill a big monster with
Yeah, and
big guns.
sometimes
Yeah.
you could make a game that's, like a
Mhm.
satire. There's some space for that, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um yeah, just been tons of ideas, so little time to work on them all. Um like it's insane. I've also been watching Babylon 5 and I've been adoring that setting and wanting to do something similar where you're playing like diplomats on basically space United Nations.
Yeah. Um that sounds fun. I do love some like really elaborate space politics. That's a good
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, like I put it down for like games I'm excited for, but Courtship by Erica Chappell, if
Mhm.
she's still working on that. I haven't heard there hasn't been any blog posts or like Blue Sky posts about that in a while, so um but very similar vein of like sci-fi politics.
Yeah. I remember seeing the torch ship stuff and it seemed cool.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um uh one thing that I really like that you did for this episode, which a couple of guests have been doing recently, and it's very fun, is like writing out things you want to talk about. I probably should
Mhm.
mention this at the top. Like we have things
Yeah.
that Jayden wanted. It's very helpful for me. It makes things a lot easier on my end. Um, but I want to talk about you. You had some like game design theory things you wanted to discuss, and
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
wondering if there are any of those you want to like focus on here.
So I think like the first thing I really want to discuss is like um so you are you are probably like the primary academic academic theorist in cigarette games. Um I was wanting to pick your brain a little bit on like what specifically like beyond what you posted in your first article of like um you know loud queer sexuality um and departure from popular axioms around like consent, stuff like that. Yeah, player and character consent. Are there any other things that would really like define a cigarette game? Because especially looking at your second um, post, there's a lot of different games with a lot of different um, vibes there. Like, what would you say is like the through line between like Hothmok King, Several Miles from Heaven, and like Toxic Sword Lesbians?
I think it's the. By the way, for folks in chat who don't know, when we say cigarette games, we're referring to F-slur games, which we cannot say on Twitch. If you want to read more about those, you can read about them. You can read my original blog on those right here. So, to answer your question, I think, and I don't even think I realized this until recently, but I think the thing that I'm looking for with a cigarette game is I want something that is going to be um, I want something that's queer, but something that is, but also like askew. Like it needs to
Mm,
be a little funky. It needs to be a little weird. Like, and when
mhm.
I say weird, I know that's like a very vague term. Um, I guess like
You could
what I
one
mean
could
by
even
that,
say queer.
yeah, I want the game to contain queer themes and characters, but I also want like
Mhm.
the content and the design itself to be queer. Um,
That makes yeah,
like
that makes sense.
when I think about I have to be so careful because it's so easy to like something that I don't
It's
want to do on this
so
show. Okay,
mhm,
here I've already broken this rule for myself, so
uh,
I will talk about their sword lesbians because I do think it's a
fair.
useful example of a game that I don't think manages to fit the category of games that I'm thinking about.
Hmm.
TSL is very good for a lot of things, as I said in my second blog. Um, it is also like, hmm, it's really interested in being a normal adventure game where
Hmm.
mostly normal things happen. Like it's very interested in being a game that you could play at a con, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, like
and
that. It was. Ooh, you finish your thought.
I think it needs to be wet. Like you need to get into the guts a bit. You need, like there needs to be blood and piss and cum.
Mm. Yeah, I 100% see what you're saying. I haven't. So, I have a copy of Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I really want to play it. Haven't really had too much of an opportunity, but from what I have seen, I do agree with you. Like, it's got queer characters, queer, and like some queer ideas. Let you play as you said, a thirsty sword lesbian, but it is also very pristine and very shiny. I think your second article like hit the nail on the head when you compared it to She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, especially like
Mhm.
the first couple seasons where everything is like pristine and shiny and like these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. Very like the only way for me to like the only words I really have to describe it is an almost like cishet normative view of the world still. Like, yeah, these characters are gay, these it's like it's assimilationist in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
is
I
the way that I would describe it. Whereas
Yeah, I can see that
yeah,
because I think there's a lot of like easy allies and easy enemies in those games or
uh-huh.
in that
Yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like the exploration of messiness with being queer, with like the mention of in Toxic Sword Lesbians that oops, all power is toxic. Um like yeah, all power is toxic. All power is used to enforce someone's will, and that is like coming from a poli sci background, that's exactly what power and violence is. And that's something we either have to that we need to reconcile with and figure out how to deal with. Like there's not any kind of even when power is used on our for our own ends, that doesn't mean that people aren't getting hurt.
yeah, uh, I think that is actually another element of cigarette games for me is that they are critical in
Mhm.
some way. Um,
Mhm.
I think Hawkmoth is a really good example of that because that is a game that is like pretty explicitly critical of like the I mean, uh, it is critical of like the childhoods that people who grew up in the 2000s had, like on some level. Like it is critical of like the modes of like sexual and gendered abuse that
Mm.
and violence that were wielded in that time, and also is kind of used
Mhm.
to get your rocks off, which is kind of the other part of it. It's like
Yeah.
it's both critical, it's critical, and it's hot. I think is like part of cigarette games for me.
Nice. Yeah. That is both like critical of like the world we live in and also how to achieve the world we want to live in, but also yeah, helps you get
You
your
are
rocks
the
off.
most incredible pervert.
But
Yeah,
also doesn't
Congratulations.
necessarily like in like maybe it's saying that like no, I think the critical, just being critical of, heavily critical of the world is probably the best way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's comparable to like uh like I'm trying to think of one of these that is not going to get people like super mad at me. Um,
Mhm.
I'll use this one because it's the first example coming to my mind, and I feel like I can speak fairly well on it. Um, because it's a bit more general than any particular
Mhm.
historical. The like collars and leashes on people,
Mm.
as a
Yeah.
kink thing, like
Mhm.
you know, uh, has some direct like, you know, historical connections to like uh
Yeah.
slavery and its abuses, and like,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
we're aware of this, and
Mhm.
we do kink stuff about it anyways because like it's,
Mhm.
you know, like it's a thing we've decided is like okay to do. Uh, and
Yeah.
that, to be clear, to be 100% clear, 150% clear, that's not even me being critical of the act of putting people in collars for sexual gratification. I love
Yeah.
that shit. It's just
Mhm.
me, you know, being honest about like where that comes from, right? Um,
Oh, totally.
and I think that's kind of the, you know, being hot and being critical is, you know, it's that's like
Mhm.
what kink is in a lot of cases. It's understanding that this is, you know,
Mhm.
maybe not if we did this in a real uncontrolled context, it wouldn't maybe be the best thing in the world. But you
Yeah.
know, we're
Mhm.
having a good time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, that was a big thing that I was wanting to do with made in my own image of like how to like how far do I want to go with this, especially in terms of like sexuality and getting your rocks off, you know?
Hmm.
So
Have you landed anywhere with that?
I keep going back and forth on it because like
Hmm.
it's the primary theme is about radical bodily autonomy and being able to become your true self, which isn't in its own case necessarily like it's not necessarily sexual in its own case,
Hmm.
but also like I can see how it could be made that.
It could be very hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. Oh yeah, happy TDOV to everybody, to all the trans people.
Oh yes. Yep. Happy Trans Day of Visibility.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think I would rather have more equal rights and more power than just being visible, but yeah.
yeah. It's a little tricky where it's like the only days that we get are days where we are like remembered and seen, and
Yeah.
there are no days where like our like cultural advancement is, you know, uh,
Yeah.
advocated for.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry to be a bummer.
No, no, you're totally fine. I was the bummer in the first place for yeah.
There. Oh yeah. Do you want to tell me about some things you've been playing?
Yeah, yeah. Things I've been playing recently. I've been in this lovely V20 group that has been going on for, um, I think it might be over. I think it might be almost, if not over a year by now. Um, I am playing a um Nosferatu, like who started out as like just kind of the worst kind of like incel gamer nerd.
Hell yeah.
You get whose character has actually kind of developed pretty significantly from that into, let's see, what's the best way to describe, like, so if you want, so the character's name is Vecna. He full on named himself Vecna.
That's very funny.
Yeah. So that's where, so yeah, that already gives you a decent idea of the kind of person Vecna is.
Mhm.
But like over the course of the game, he has developed to almost be a little bit of a sad boy puppy dog that constantly is dealing with all the shit that the universe keeps throwing him. Like, constantly, like, he himself isn't necessarily a fuck up, but he has been possessed and ridden by a wraith,
Oh boy.
almost had, yeah, almost had, like, let's see, had to deal with a, like, a werewolf trying to, like, destroy the, yeah, like, attack his coterie while trying to run away from, like, just an information gathering session, um, almost traumatized by an evil vampire circus leader. Um, yeah, no, Vecna has, oh yeah, suffer rot shriek at the worst times. Vecna has gone through a lot of shit and is constantly joked about, like, being the character is that the universe just kind of keeps abusing. Um,
Good.
yeah. Um, I've been playing a Pathfinder game. Um, and while that's enjoyable, it's one of the few in-person games I get to play.
Hmm.
Like, I think it is also kind of solidifying my general dislike almost of dungeon crawlers a little bit, or like the D&D style RPGs. Like, 2E is cool. I am enjoying my time with the group, but sometimes it is like I would like a different, and like I love my character. They are
Mhm.
basically Goblin Oda Nobunaga.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, like Goblin Oda Nobunaga from a family that is basically the designated undead hunters. Like, super cool idea, super cool. Like, I do love my little goblin warlord there. Um, but they are also kind of the character that has the most direction out of the party,
Oh boy.
and it's like I as a player want to give other players the opportunity to have more, what's the like, more agency rather than always being the person who has the most defined goals, the person that has the most direction. Um
You're a
and
you,
yeah,
you're a goals and a goal like uh, it's like a goals and personality traits oriented player at a beer and pretzels ass table. It sounds like.
yeah, no, that does feel like what it is a little bit.
Yeah.
And like, I think that does kind of show one of my frustrations with D&D style games is that
Hmm.
and like I hadn't even considered that like it's a beer and pretzel style game as opposed to like a driven narrative style. Because yeah, I'm looking back on it now, and like every single campaign and game I've been in, most of the time there are either all a bunch of players who have either the GM has had a general direction and goal, like my first
Hmm.
5e campaign, and my character also had like a general direction and goal. Or like the game mechanics themselves push you towards a certain direction and goal and story. And you're 100% right that I am very much more like I have a direction and goal for a character and things I want to play out and experience with this character, less so than just coming in, do a dungeon combat, or like, yeah,
Yeah, you want to get up to some
yeah,
dialogue. You want to talk. You want to talk to some
yep, yep,
people. You want to do some shit.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
understandable.
yeah. But I also don't want to be the only person driving that. I want other folks to get in and have those same kind of drives and goals. Um,
Yeah.
I'm let's see. I've currently been working on setting up a solo Star Wars tabletop RPG game for my partner Zoe, who I think is in the. Oh, there she is. Yep,
Oh yeah,
there
there's
she
Zoe.
is.
Hi Zoe.
Yeah, Bumblebee Zoe. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Just this past weekend, we finalized character creation, and I'm working on just getting the general stuff set up for that. The Genesis system and Star Wars specifically is one of my favorite systems. I love that it's dice pool based. I really like the narrative dice mechanics. I like the that it's this nice in between of narrative and crunch. It's a big reason why I enjoy um, World of Darkness and the storyteller system as well. I really like that there's room for crunch, but it's not trying to be a hyper simulationist system either. Um,
Yeah,
let's
I
see.
agree. FFG is
Mhm.
interesting. The only
Oh yeah.
challenge I like FFG a lot. The only challenge I ever have with it is like how to properly manage the XP. Um,
No, that is
because
super fair.
its
Like,
pacing can be weird, and like the goal system
mhm,
is not just it's just not the way that I think of advancement generally. I prefer advancement systems that are more like full party like did we do X, Y, and Z things, and then you get
mhm,
XP, rather than like here's a goal. I'm going to set a challenge for this goal. If I don't complete, if I do everything that's required to complete this
mhm,
goal, but then the plot turns in a different direction, I still don't get the XP for this goal. Like,
mhm. Yeah,
it doesn't
that's
allow
fair.
like not like
Mhm,
if you set your goal, like if your hard goal is like I want
mhm,
to get revenge on this guy who screwed me over, and then when
mhm,
you're there with like your gun to his head, you have a character moment and you decide to not kill him, you don't get XP for
mhm.
that.
Huh. Um, I must not have read the rule book closely enough because I don't remember these mechanics.
I
I've
think
mostly
this
been playing
was
XP kind of loosey goosey.
I think this was in the like edge of the like the like out the like smugglers and criminals type book, whatever it's called, Scum and Villainy.
Um, Edge of the Empire was the very first source book that was focused on like smugglers, criminals, and civilians
Okay, I don't know why I
and
remember
bounty hunters. Yeah, yeah,
this,
yeah.
but this is
Yeah,
just what
no,
we
you're
used
totally fine.
when
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were playing it.
hmm Yeah, like I don't use that mechanic when I run
Mhm.
Star Wars FFG. I tend to use specifically like um honestly, it is more akin to like how I've how it's happened in like all my D&D campaigns or um like Vampire LARP or VTM or V20 where it's like, yeah, you did some stuff this session. Everyone take like a couple XP. That's usually how I've been giving out XP. Or sometimes like I think when I ran it last, like when I ran it with a big group, I stole a couple mechanics from masks where it's like, all
Hmm.
right, everyone say like basically give name a character or name a player that you enjoyed their role play and why, and then they'll get like a little extra XP.
Lovely. That's nice. I like
Yeah, yeah.
that.
Um, yeah, yeah. And lastly, for things that I've been playing recently, my work, No Land Beyond. Every third Tuesday of the month runs a basically one-shot RPG event called Flagons and Dragons, where
Hmm.
GMs come in, bring a bunch of like one-shots that they have prepared or have been wanting to run, or like bring in a new RPG that they don't get an opportunity to that they haven't had an opportunity to play around with yet. And these most recent times, um, I've been running the Arkham Horror RPG from Ed Studio. Um, after the successor to FFG's RPG group when Asmodee restructured the whole thing, and the Fallen London starter for Magpie's Fallen London game.
Ooh, hell yeah.
Yeah, really enjoyed both. The Arkham Horror RPG has some really interesting mechanics, especially around like turns and time and resource management, where you have a pool of dice to do things, but it is also your pool of dice is also effectively a timer.
Oh, that's
So
fun.
like so you use a dice to say basically how much time you're committing to an action. The more time you commit, the more likely you succeed, of course. But then there's less time to do other things.
Neat.
Yeah, and Fallen London is very interesting as a game. Um, let's let me try and let me pull up the starter again. Hopefully, I can find it. Yeah, like with Fallen London specifically, like I do like the I really like how they do challenge rolls. It's a Magpie game, so it's very it it's not um PBTA, but it is you see the PBTA influences. D6s, there's a big dice pool that um you roll instead of having just take roll two.
Mhm.
Um and I like the hit system for this, where it's like um instead of a PBTA hit where you get the one roll, and if it's above a certain amount, you get a hit. You instead are looking for five and sixes, and the more fives and sixes you roll, the more hits you get. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, you build a dice pool based on like your stats, your skills, whether the situation is advantageous to you, and if you have any useful equipment, and then you just roll a big pool of dice. I really like this trend towards rolling big pools of dice. It is fun to play with the
It
click clack
is.
math rocks.
It's good.
Eh.
Would you like to talk a bit about we probably don't have time to talk about all of these. Would you like to
Yeah, no,
talk
of course.
would
There's
you like to dip a bit into some things that you're excited for? Upcoming TTRPGs that you're excited for?
Yeah. I already mentioned Torch Ship. I still want I'm still curious what's going on with that, but
Mhm.
like Erica will get to it when Erica gets to it. Um, Super excited for Dracotrification. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah,
Yeah. Dracotropication or
fantastic.
Dragotropication, either or.
Yeah. Super duper excited for that. It looks really fun. I like um the interesting mechanics and the very or I like the interesting dynamic between like the dragon and the princess, of course.
Mhm.
Um the and how and all the different ways that dynamic can play out. Um
Well, thank you. We made it worse recently. By which I mean we made it better. We made it nastier.
Fantastic. Wonderful. I can't wait. Um I've been following the development of Sapphic World for a long time. Super excited whenever updates for that come out. Makes me feel a lot better about like my own inability to like finish a project. Like not
Mhm.
that like I know it's gonna come out eventually. Um but just between Sapphic World, Torch Ship, and all these other games where where I see people talking about them on like Blue Sky, it's like, nah, it's okay. It's okay for your games to have a long development time and to maybe outgrow um your initial ideas or your initial like scope.
Yeah. I will say we're planning on. I, should I say that? Hmm. I'll say
Oh,
Your Beheld is looking at potentially putting crowdfunding for Sapphic World in the near future.
hell yeah. Hell yeah.
We have a plan.
Lovely.
A plan is being enacted as we speak, essentially.
Very glad to hear that.
Hmm.
That is very exciting. Um Warren Guard had a um yeah, Warren Guard had a backer kit a little while back. Natalie put him and Luck of the Harbor did that. I know you've collaborated with Natalie a couple times, right?
Yeah, Natalie and I have been getting really
Yeah.
close recently. Natalie's actually the next guest. Natalie's going to be on the 7th.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Glad to hear. Um yeah, so I'm like dragon riding is always super fun, so
Mhm.
very excited for that to come out. Um where did my notes go? Where did my notes go? Let's see. Voidheart Symphony Revised. Like I'm just curious to see where that goes. If only because of my own contributions to the first edition. Um so a couple games that let's see. I mentioned Fallen London as a game
Mhm.
I'm super excited about. A little while back I was playing Frosthaven with a group and really kind of started to fall in love with the Gloomhaven setting. So the Gloomhaven RPG is a big one for me. Um, and I have also kind of fallen in love with Root, so I'm very excited for the upcoming Root expansion from Magpie.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's see. I don't want to take too much time with games I'm excited for.
It's okay.
Yeah. So like if you want to move on to like the news stories, yeah.
I will note Hypermall and Limited Violence physical release. I am also very excited about that.
Oh
I
yeah.
forget if I backed
Hypermall
that,
and
but
Limited
it's really
Violence
cool.
look yeah. I forgot about that one does look super cool.
Yeah, that game's cool. Well,
Mhm.
we had JD who made that on the show a while back.
Oh nice.
Right,
Hell yeah.
cool person. Yeah, cool person, cool game. Yeah. All right. How do you feel about doing the first bit of news and taking a break?
Sure, yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. The moment I get off the show, I'm going to swap hotel rooms because this one's AC is busted, and I do not think I'm going to be able to sleep like this. we're
Yeah,
having
no.
we're having an interesting time here.
Get a better hotel room.
Yeah. All right. Chorus the Newsbird coming in from a nice, cool hotel room. There we go. So our first subject is the Credit Awards. Um, da, da, da. They are. Nominations are opening. Uh, Tomorrow, right? Yeah, tomorrow.
All right. Yeah.
Tomorrow. um, uh, Primary voting is will be live on April 1st and close on April 30th. This is where the community nominates peers for the awards categories that have been announced. This is an open forum, so like you pick you like look at categories and you're like, I think this game should win this category, and then you put that like it's like a Google form and you just like fill it in. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be up tomorrow. I am currently. I can probably say it once. I'll say it once. I'm quoting the name of a blog. I'm going to be pushing pretty hard for folks to put my faggot games and urgent warning blog in for the hang on, I have the exact category somewhere here. Let me get that so I'm not just speaking out of my ass. Oh god. Okay. Wow. Google Chrome is not happy. All right. For best blog or article written in the TTRPG space. So keep an eye out for that award category. I will be posting everywhere, encouraging folks to to submit it. And hopefully,
do.
yeah.
Like, at the least, I will gladly submit that, even if I don't submit anything else.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and you should also submit other stuff that you like from various people. I will not be pushing for any of my other stuff to be nominated, so check around like Blue Sky and stuff to see if other people have stuff that they want you to put through, and then decide what you think was the best of the year.
Heck yeah.
All right. Let's take 5. So we'll be back at 58. All right. See you all in a bit. Bye.
See ya.
Hello. Oh gosh, I just realized I'm immediately on here. That's okay though, because that's the. This is not me just merely scrolling blue sky. This is the next thing we're going to talk about. So I saw this bleat from Ben Vox, who's a voice actor and teacher uh, influencer of sorts, um, AP person, um,
Mhm.
and Vin says, correct me if I'm wrong, but all these newer fight the resistance, punch Nazis, etc. TTRPG feel like masturbating. Don't roll dice and pat yourself on the back for it. Go outside and help someone. And if you can't, take that PDF money and donate it. Give +1 forward in real life. And I'm not shaming y'all. I'm taking this frustration as a sign to do more too. Everything is so heavy right now, and creativity as an act of defiance can only take you so far. Um, and then Humna replied with this post from David Jones Cross. IMO, this is situational. Games can be. I didn't actually put this in the notes, but I think this is useful to talk about because I do think these are folks who have
Yeah.
some sway, and
Mhm.
also I think are saying interesting things. IMO, the situational. Games can be a tool for educating people on how to think about resistance, to give them practice and confidence in a staged environment. If there's no plan such intent to bring those skills to life, then yeah, for sure. There's a second way I think these games are a positive. Just like how the racialized depictions of orcs and goblins encode a kind of bigotry into TTRPGs, games that depict revolution as attainable acts of resistance may have a positive impact on how people view resistance and their role in it. I owe a lot of this thinking to Tony K. Bambara, and they include this quote that says, the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. So Hamna says, I agree with David, and I want to add, these games can be a useful space for people to practice their radical imaginations. It allows people to practice imagining better worlds and what it might take to build them together. You can then apply that to real-life action. I also want to gently and non-judgmentally push back. Why is the knee-jerk reaction to question the existence of resistance-themed games, but not to do so with other themes? Why is this particular theme objectionable? I think there might be some underlying thoughts that need to be unpacked here. And I also want to highlight this quote from Jay Dragon. I think at the core of it, it's cool and fun if punching Nazis in a game makes you feel good and you want to do that play, but you can't delude yourself into believing play is a substitute for activism. Play if you want to, play if you need to, play is good, but no game can save the world. They just don't have that power. Um, and then some folks are talking about how it's a source of self growth. Jay says I wouldn't call self growth a form of activism, but yeah, lots of very different opinions here.
Mhm.
That I have complicated feelings about this. I'd love to hear what you think first, if you're comfortable with that.
So here's a couple of my thoughts. I do very much agree with um what was yeah, David's point about how games can act as games and art can act as tools of propaganda to show
Mhm.
people that this is actually achievable. This is possible. Um I will I would also like to add that propaganda is most effective when it is coming from something more organized rather than something just put out willy-nilly by a bunch of individual creators. Um, but I do think that the need for that there is a massive need for radical and revolutionary art to take control of the conversation, to say that not only is this possible, it is good, um, and that we do need to be doing this. But I think there is also a limit to how far that can go. Like, I think you wrote something in the first cigarette games blog, um, that quote, making queer horny art alone will not save everyone, but it might help one person be more comfortable, free, relaxed. It's worth doing. Like, it's absolutely worth doing to create this art, to engage in this type of play, to especially engage in joy in the resistance. Like, the one of the biggest frustrations I have with like some folks on like some progressive folks and folks on the left in the United States is assuming that or like just treating the revolution and the act of resistance as a constant serious hyper serious dour struggle where you're never allowed to have fun with it. But on the flip side, like writing these stories isn't what's going to like stop um ice from barging down someone's door and sending and disappearing them.
Yeah. Um, I absolutely agree. And yeah, it's interesting. I have to be honest, like I have not hit some of the goals that I had in terms of activism in my initial blog at this point because I've been so busy and in and out of the
Mm-hmm.
state, in and out of my county. Um, but I have machinations to do so in the near
Mm-hmm.
future. But um, I I see like a lot of good points in like a lot of what folks are saying here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I very much agree with you where it's like it feels like it's kind of a bit of one, a bit of the other. I also think a lot of this is
Mm-hmm.
semantics. Like a lot of this is like what do you think, what is activism to you, right? Like
Yeah.
and I think that affects a lot of it affects a lot of this. Like um
One
if
hundred percent.
activism to you is like a thing that you do with your feet and your hands and
Mm-hmm.
your voice, and it is, going into the street and going to protests, like then yes, like playing games is not going to be activism to you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if like activism to you is community gardening uh and like you know like distributing theory and distributing zines, like
Mm-hmm.
playing and making radical games might be activism to you, but it might not be. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think like part of it is just the question of like what is your margin for that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I do think that
People
the
talking past each other, even because they have slightly different definitions of things.
yeah, I I do kind of agree. Hmm. Uh, I I have mixed feelings about. It feels like every year we get one or two of these where it's like you're just like flat out resistance game, where you
Mm-hmm.
are like role playing activists who are
Mm-hmm.
like doing stuff today in like modern world, and it's like
Yeah.
I get it, but I'm
Like
also not fully there. Like I don't know, it's a little confusing to me. I'm not
yeah.
entirely sure what the goals are.
Yeah. And like I think that's another issue is that because development, especially for games, takes time and effort, like you're always going to be slightly behind the curve on that. Like you will always be missing the material issues of the present because because your game and your art is responding to the material issues of a couple months ago, a
Mhm.
year ago, when you first were inspired to make this by the goings on of then.
Yeah, I also think like, huh. Okay, a thing that I actually really think is important that to my estimation, a lot of these games are missing, and that like if you're looking at like like quote unquote like resistance fiction, things
Mhm.
like Boots Riley's films, for example, really hit on is that the people in your revolution kind of need to suck a little bit. Like
Yeah,
they need to have like
like
really like flaws, and I feel like
mhm,
it's there's almost like a cozy resistance like thing that
mhm.
happens with some of these games, at least as
it's
I understand it.
it's like thirsty sword lesbians, where like everything is like cozy and like perfect when humans are messy. These organizations are messy. People is like it almost like I almost kind of want to wrap this whole discussion back into cigarette games in
Hmm.
that real life is messier than that. Like,
Yeah. Um, I do you mind if I semi spoil Boots Riley's "I'm a Virgo"?
go ahead.
So there's a character in Boots Riley's "I'm a Virgo" who, in one of the last scenes of the show, um, the scene right before is her like very briefly trying to. She has this like psychic theater power where she can like
Hmm.
create a like whole like like void where she can project any images she wants to like convince people of things. Um,
All right.
and so the second to last scene is her trying to use that to get her ex girlfriend back. And then the scene
Huh.
immediately after that is her effectively using it to make a CEO give up on trying to arrest a black teenager. Um,
Amazing.
and like the contradiction of those two things, like this very like abusive, manipulative, like violation of the power of the like organizational power that she has, followed by
Uh-huh.
like effective activism, is like exactly the sort of like uh it's the exact like contradictions we need to be like aware of and like reflecting in
Uh-huh.
art that we make about these sorts of themes, I think.
Yeah. No, that is super fair. Like some of like absolutely like I don't like trying to hold people to an is like a super perfectionist um like mindset.
Mhm.
I think that tends to be a little um more I think that does a bigger disservice to the cause than like otherwise. But there are absolutely times where it's like, yeah, there's a sometimes our comrades can actually be pieces of shit, and we need to do what we can to make sure they're not being pieces of shit. But also, we can't exactly get rid of them either.
Yeah, and also like I think the other end of that, and like I think a thing that like is important to also acknowledge is that like our comrades can have like kind of shitty personal lives and
Mm-hmm.
and like fuck up their relationships and like
Mm-hmm.
be divorced and I don't know
Yeah.
have like be alcoholics and like
Mm-hmm.
like they can have all sorts of
Yeah.
problems um
Yeah.
and they can still like perform effective action with us
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think that's like an important thing that a lot of these stories about revolutions are missing. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I really like Andor. Andor is a
Oh
like
yeah.
resistance story that is interest like everybody in Andor kind of sucks a lot, um, in a really great way. Um,
Yeah. That's super fair.
yeah.
Um. Yeah. No, that's even one thing where Andor is different from like Rebels, where the closest thing to someone sucking is that Saw Gerrera is a bit of a meanie.
Yeah, and then Saw Gerrera is like he's complicated. I mean, they're all complicated, right? But
Uh-huh.
he's like kind of right about a couple things in Andor,
Mhm.
which is
Good.
interesting. Yeah. Um, okay. I don't see. Yeah, we're talking about Andor. We're dipping into the Andor zone. Um,
And yeah.
I'm not spoiled. Next episode, but it's why Ken Host is interested in messy queers. True. Oh yeah, something that I should mention about next week's episode is that Natalie's going to be fresh off of her bottom surgery. She's going to be high on those pussy drugs. So
Oh boy. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, come to the
Um,
Dovecote with pussy drug questions, everybody. It's gonna be New Pussy Monday. The night before, yeah.
nice, nice,
Oh,
nice.
sorry. You're not gonna
Oh,
be on New Pussy drugs. It's gonna be before you get the pussy.
oh, the night before. Got it.
You're gonna have
Well,
those
still,
pussy,
congrats.
those New Pussy jitters. You're gonna be waiting for Pussy Claus to come down the chimney and perform your SRS. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I'm very excited for that. Okay. Well, that's the news. Please hang on. Let me. That's all we have for news. Folks should send us emails at darlingdemoneclipse@gmail.com, and we will answer them. They can be about anything, any sort of question you have that your heart desires an answer to. Oh, do we want to look at So earlier today, I made this thread, or I made a post.
Ooh.
I wasn't expecting it to get much engagement, but it got a bunch, and it was what was it? Or sorry, actually, you had things that you wanted to talk about before we
Yeah,
get into other stuff.
No. I'm curious about this. What was the post that you made? Because I don't think I've seen it.
So, I'm gonna send it to you. I made this post, which goes.
That
Wait,
one.
that's not it. That's not it.
Oh, not that one? No. Yeah,
No. It is this post. I just had the wrong.
Post.
I clicked through a thing accidentally. So I said, tell me about a teacher regime made by a trans person, specifically a game I have not already heard of. Oh wait, hang on, that didn't post correctly. I've actually not heard about a good amount of these, so let's look. I want to look through them on stream if you're down for that.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Hell yeah. Thursday Row put in Dream of Ski, which I have heard of, unfortunately, and Songbirds 3, which I have heard of, unfortunately. I really should have put a note that's like, you have to be sure or I'm gonna like annihilate you with my beam.
You are the most incredible pervert. Congratulations.
It's so funny. So I have this following sound that's Sock Pens or Scorpy from Radio TV Solutions saying, "You are the most incredible pervert," and then a bunch of people laughing. And I tried to make it like only 10%, but now it's like every time it's just that sound. I don't know what's up. Anyways, Thursday Row, cool person, going to be annihilated with beams. I know about both of these games. Ash said, I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but my GM ran Panic at the Dojo for me a while back, and it was a really fun and unique system. Super loved it a lot. Vel Mini is an IRL friend. Fires beams at you. So Ash has turned to dust. Not Science Patterns by Rookery Games. I know Rook. I don't know about Not Science Patterns, so Jellyfish Lines gets to survive one more day. Mew Done It, I don't know about, so Marn, you're good. Bring Down the House, I also don't know about, so Marn's good to go. Fist, I know about, so Evelyn's on thin ice here. Here There Be Monsters, I actually don't know about. This looks hot, I should look at this. Looks good. I know about Hold Your Banshee Selkie, Jellyfish Lines is a friend. Logan is turned to dust. I know about Psycho Dungeon, because Tanya Flicker is a friend. Blurty turns to dust. Trash Sexy I don't know about. Needle Stitch I don't know about. Pokemon Tales by Iron Echo I don't know about. And Dance Macabre I don't know about. Brian LaBerge gets, like, stone skin. Like, Brian LaBerge gets to live forever. I am not familiar with Witches Loving Weird Wetlands. This looks awesome. I'm gonna give this a look. Okay, so there's this game called Sapphic World. I actually know the person who made that, so Sylvan, you're going to be annihilated forever. I don't know about Formative, so you're good. There's a game called Delve. I haven't heard of it. Haven't heard of Suffer Not. I've heard of the Far Roofs. So Victor Turns to Dust. I feel like I've heard of Hard Case, but not enough to like justify Dust. I've not heard of things Eldritch and Terrifying. I have not heard of the Maroon Room. I have heard of Soul Cemetery. I have not heard of the Rat Guardian. A Rat Guardian. So Matt Calder Turned to Dust. Sorry. Yeah, that was an interesting thing. I'm glad that people like came out and forced to post stuff for that.
That's fun. Rip to all the people who are turned to dust.
Yeah, most people got me. Most people stumped me. Like I don't know most of those games. I'm excited to know them.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't have a good way to segue into this other thing that I've been like slightly kind of working on. It's not a game so much as like just a general thought, but like a sort of historiography of tabletop RPGs. Like, so just the patterns in which both the academic thought on tabletop RPGs and how the actual design of RPGs have been since its inception nearly like 50 years ago with
quite a while.
The original D&D? Yeah. So like I have kind of come to the thought that there's 6 or so decades or eras of RPGs. There's like the 70s, which was the very first war game dungeon crawls, the 0th edition and the AD&D first edition, Traveler, stuff like that. 80s, I see like a growth in diversification, or like not diversification, but like crunchy universalist systems trying to, stuff like GURPS, basic role playing comes out. West End Games Star Wars, closer to the tail end. Let's see. Second gen is the 90s with like the beginning of narrative style games. So like vampire narrative and like new original properties come out. Shadowrun, World of Darkness, Cyberpunk 2020, a little bit earlier than the 90s, but and then we hit the 2000s. The 2000s get weird.
There's a lot of people making stuff.
There's a lot of people making stuff, and this is also where we kind of start to see the beginnings of RPG academia and analysis. We have the beginning of we have like the GNS theory, the article System Does Matter by Ron Edwards. The creation of like the gamist, narrativist, and simulationist theory, or theories of game design. While simultaneously in the 2000s, D&D 3rd edition comes out, and 3rd edition just takes over the scene. Every single game from the early to mid 2000s is just using the OGL. There's a handful of other games coming out like Fate, but for the most part, tons of games just take an existing property and retheme it to be OGL D20.
Right, yeah. It's kind
specifically
of a...
third or 3.5.
It kind of has a flattening effect, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
D&D.
Yep. Yep. By the late 2000s, we see that academic designers start to bring in that academic insight into their games. So we start seeing games focused around the GNS theory. Fourth edition of D&D heavily gamifies itself. We see the rise of Powered by the Apocalypse, where there's still mechanics, but it is mostly about designing and creating a narrative. And also we see a bunch of other games start to come out, like Dark Heresy, Gumshoe, The One Ring, and other variants of like the OGL, like Dungeon Crawl Classics and Pathfinder, partially because of rejecting 4th edition. So like that's kind of like the 4th gen of like the diversification. So the 4E kind of fails to keep 3rd edition's dominance of the market. We see the rise of the OSR, PBTA,
Right.
and eventually the rise of 5th edition, where the market once again consolidates around 5th edition. This is also where we get to see a lot of deconstructionist academia, where people start to critique game mechanics themselves, where we see the beginnings of like the D&D as colonial, and the beginning of the safety tools becoming more standard practice and standard like tools to be used.
Could you tell me what you
in
mean
games.
by... Sorry,
Yeah.
could you tell me what you mean by D&D as colonial?
Okay, so like the critique of very much like the critique of orcs as like bad guys, or the idea of always evil
okay.
races.
You
That
mean
kind of stuff.
when the critique
Yeah,
was
yeah.
present, not when D&D started being colonial itself. Yes,
Yes,
I would agree.
yes. That's when the critique was present.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. That's when this critique, like, I'm not saying that D&D had a time where it wasn't colonial. I'm saying it was always colonial, but this is when people started discussing that critique.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. Or actually coming up with that critique.
I would be surprised if people had not brought it up before. I feel like it's more like it became popular. Yeah.
No, that's super fair. Like, I'm sure it came up before, but this is when that critique did start to become popular.
Right, yeah. Definitely.
And finally we have kind of hit, like, in my opinion, sort of a 5th generation in the 2020s with a indie revolution and 5e's collapse. Like 5e hasn't fully collapsed, but like the OGL controversy has led to a lot of 5e content creators jumping ship. itch.io is taking off. Mork Bork and other OGL, or not OGL, OSR groups and OGL games are really popping off. Magpie, which started out as like an indie company, has started to get a lot bigger. And we are also seeing in the academic space a little bit of a pushback, not in a bad way, but in like an expanded way from the previous eras of academia. Like the embrace of type 2 games, which
Yeah.
Yep, the embrace of Type 2 games, the rise of cigarette games, playing with classical ideas of the um of safety tools and being like and intentionally seeking out rough experiences.
Mhm.
Um and I would also say even like a let's see, we have also seen folks who had previously subscribed to stuff like the GNS theory, like Vincent Baker, going back and saying that that model is no longer really relevant.
What is
And
the
that it
JNS
is.
theory for the audience?
Um, okay, so the GNS theory is a theory by Ron Edwards that originally was like came out in 1999 in the article System Does Matter, where
Right.
he proposes three types of um, tabletop RPGs: narrative, simulation, and game, and kind of makes the argument that these games that unless if a game is following one of these aspects like really closely, they are incoherent.
Hmm.
So we see like fourth edition hard focused on game like hard focused on games, on like being a game rather than having too many narrative elements. Um, we see the rise of PBTA, which focuses more on the narrative stuff. Um, but we have also seen a lot of folks in further on start to push back against this threefold model. I'm kind of the opinion that GNS theory is more akin to like Bartle's taxonomy of players.
Right.
These are aspects that all games should have. Like the genre is literally called role-playing games.
Yeah, it's like a
It,
spectrum almost.
yeah, it's a spectrum, and it should have a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
Um, like if you don't have the game mechanics, you're just talking.
Hmm.
Like you're just making a collaborative story, which isn't bad. Like that's good. People should be doing that. Conversations are good, but like there should be the game structure. But without like the narrative element, what exactly are you what is going on specifically?
What to
Yeah.
wrap up here? What do you suspect the next uh generation of games will be? Like, what do you expect the next? What do you suspect that'll look like?
What I suspect the next generation of games will look like, I'm thinking with the next generation of games will probably be like a push towards designing systems to because so we're already seeing this, but like designing systems and mechanics to focus towards a certain message or um like style of play. Like
Hmm.
with cigarette games, we're seeing that big time with like trying to create a queer experience specifically and having mechanics to push towards that and influence that. Um, I think we will likely see. I don't think D&D is ever going to go away. It was the first. It's been here forever, but I think we will likely see a waning of D&D's influence as Wizards of the Coast continues to try to beat that dead horse.
Hmm.
And I think we will see like a lot of um, experimentation in this upcoming like era. People will try and do weird things, new things, and that I'm hoping that those kind of things become more common. Like,
Yeah, I hope so too.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're not receiving any mail, so I think we'll wrap up here, so I can have a little bit of time to figure
Yeah,
out
that's
my
super fair.
hotel room
And
and such.
yeah, take care of your hotel room.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
of course.
you. Thank you all for watching. Do you have anything you want to plug before we hop off?
At the moment, no. You can follow me on Blue Sky at let's see, at kawaii-marauder.bluesky.social.
Gotcha.
Hopefully I actually kind of want to start posting more about the development of made in my own image. So if
Oh
you
yeah.
were interested in that, like, keep watching there. And in fact, after this I might post the ideas I've had for stats for that game, just so that folks can get a better idea of what I'm currently working with.
Awesome. I think yeah, I'm gonna raid Holly Holotones and be here next week for the pre-pussy Natalie Putum interview. All right. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night.
Remember, if you don't like what you see, you can change it. It's up to you, really. Goodbye, good luck, and have fun!